Very good morning to all our viewers and listeners outside there. Welcome to another edition of ACFIM Talks. ACFIM Talks takes place every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 midday East African time. This is brought to you by Alliance Finance Monitoring, a political finance watchdog in Africa. My name is Abel Esero and I'm going to be today's host. We are going to be discussing about the crisis in the education sector. Is it symptomatic of inheriting governance deficits in Uganda? Before we continue, I would like all of you who are watching us to subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's ACFIM Uganda on Facebook. It's ACFIM UG. On Twitter, it's also ACFIM UG. You can follow our pages and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I would like to give a brief background on why we decided to choose to discuss about this topic today. Of course, we all need to know that democracy cannot succeed unless the citizens who vote for leaders are educated and are able to choose wisely. In other words, education is the real safeguard for democracy. A country's education system is as good as the quality of its leaders, its teachers, and teachers in Uganda constitute more than a half of Uganda's civil service. Over time, Uganda National Teachers Union, that's UNAT, has been engaged in negotiations with government over enhancements of teachers' salary. Midway through the negotiations, the president announced plans to prioritize the incentivization of science teachers and by extension, of scientists and by extension, science teachers. As we speak now, salary for science teachers for secondary schools and primary has been enhanced while the where the teachers will earn a monthly pay of Uganda shillings 4 million, while the arts counterparts will continue earning about 1 million. This has occasioned a protest where arts teachers have downed their tools. This is being interpreted as discrimination. Consequently, some secondary schools are closed, with arts teachers refusing to bow down to directives of government officials from the Ministry of Public Service and Ministry of Education. Article 40B of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda provides for ensuring for equal payment for equal work without discrimination. So we are asking ourselves several questions. Could this be interpreted as an act of discrimination and hence violation of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda? Is it possible that the officials in government are not aware of this? Could this be a tip of the iceberg in terms of how the country is being governed or misgoverned? How do we get out of this stalemate? This and much more are the questions we are going to interrogate in today's edition of ACFIM Talks, and to help me navigate this story behind the story are two distinguished academic giants. Let me introduce the academic giants who are going to be discussing this topic. I will start with Dr. Musinguzi Dennis, who is a senior lecturer at Uganda Matters University. He previously served as head of department of governance, peace, and international studies, and dean School of Arts and Social Sciences at Uganda Matters University. He has served as a consultant for local and international organizations for more than 10 years. His areas of specialization include governance, management, public policy, human rights, and development. Dr. Musinguzi Dennis, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Abel. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We shall also be joined by Dr. Deus Kamunyu, who is a lecturer at Makerere University, the former chairman of Makerere University Academic Staff Association, that is MWASA. He is also the chairperson Forum for Academic Staff of Public Universities in Uganda. His PhD dissertation focused on how the history of pain and shame has shaped the image of Uganda. Dr. Deus will be joining us shortly, and I know he's trying to connect. So I will go direct to Dr. Dennis Musunguzi. The Supreme Law of the Land, that's the 1995 Constitution, Article 40B, on economic rights provides for ensuring for equal payment for equal work without discrimination. Do Do you think the legal argument of the enhancements of science teachers being contrary to the constitution? Do you see it contrary?
All right. Thank you so much, Abel, for that question. I will be glad to be joined by Dr. Mwezi Deus. I want to say something before I answer your question. Deus is my OB, and is not only my OB, we were classmates at St. Joseph's Vocational School in Barara. And we were not only classmates, we were sharing the same cubicle. A cubicle had two double deckers for four students, and we were even sharing a bed. I was staying up and he was staying on the lower part of the decker. So he's my friend, he's my brother. We have been together for this long. I was excited when I saw him that he's going to be with me as we are discussing this very important topic. Now, of course, coming to your question, yes, as you already mentioned, there is this common saying in the education space that the quality of the population of a given country can never be better than the quality of its education system. Meaning it is the quality of the education system that determines the quality of the population, that determines the quality of the economy, that determines the quality of service delivery and everything else, as you've stated it. So paying attention to education sector, it is something that is vital for the survival of any country, in particular a country like Uganda. So because of that, when there is an issue of improving the salaries for our teachers, in principle, it is a welcome development, because our teachers are one of the people of the servants who have been paid so less in relation to the kind of work that they are doing. So the moment you say we are going to enhance their salaries, it is something that everybody should welcome. Of course, the question is going to be how is it done? And then of course you're asking the question whether what we I mean that whether the crisis in education is symptomatic of the broader crisis in government. Even before you begin talking about discrimination among the teachers, I mean, let us look at the salary structures. We have a teacher of science who is going to earn 4 or 3 million shillings. A permanent secretary in a ministry earns about 3.7, meaning some teachers of secondary school are going to be paid higher than a permanent secretary in a ministry. A director in the government earns even far less, 2.3. A director in the ministry is not after permanent secretary. And for me, I'm even concerned about His Excellency the President, because the captain who captains the president moving all the way earns about 2.8. Now, if how is he going to feel that a teacher is earning 4 million shillings? Now, how is this all coming about? Of course, it is the ad hoc way in which the payments, the negotiation of salaries has been done. Yes, in terms of discrimination, it is obvious, because we have teaching as a profession. All these are qualifying teachers. They go to the same school. They teach the same students for the same hours. And by the way, our education system does not say these are science schools on their own and these are art schools on their own. Students sit in the same classes. Now, the moment you begin thinking about enhancing salaries, and then you begin to say one group will earn 4 million and the other group will remain at less than a million, you begin even to think about what is in the mind of the person who is okaying that kind of decision. It is obvious you are discriminating against these same people who are teaching the same students. If there were to be any special considerations for people who are doing sciences, maybe because of the much time they stay in laboratories, maybe because of some extra work they do outside class, then you can say, okay, the salaries are the same, but we are going to put some several extra pay allowances, and that would be, enough to motivate them. Now, the moment you say one group of the same profession, of the actors in the same space, one is getting 500 times more than the other one. That goes against the constitutional provision of equal pay for equal work. I mean, it is quite obvious. Of course, that the dynamics of the negotiations, that is something that can be argued, separately. But in the enhancement of salaries, we needed a better way that will enhance salaries without discriminating against the teachers. Thank you, Abel.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. Now, you touched an issue concerning the discrepancies in terms of the teacher will be earning 4 million, and you find maybe a permanent secretary is earning about 3.5 million,
Yeah.
and you find that sometimes the persons who are supposed to supervise these teachers
Mm.
are also earning less money. Could this be a tip of an iceberg in terms of how the country is being governed or misgoverned?
Yeah.
And do you point that does this point to a bigger governance deficit? Can you help us try to understand this?
Yes, Abel. Of course, that's what I was alluding to in my previous response. Yes, a chief administrative officer in a district also earns about 2.5 million shillings. A district education officer earns slightly less than 2.5 million shillings. And then is the one who is supposed to superintend over and manage the education process in the district. Now, of course, the moment you see these kinds of abnormal discrepancies, the immediate question is who is doing all this? How are they doing it? What kind of considerations are they having in their minds to come to these kinds of decisions? And as you've rightly put it, then this takes us back. You cannot understand government decisions and the policy interventions and initiatives like this if you do not reflect on the nature of politics in the country, then the nature of administration in the country, then the nature of public policy. Administrators, we already know them. We have the technical people within ministries, within districts, within local governments. At the district level, they will say there is a cow who is the head of technical wing. Then we have the chairman, LC5, who is the head of politics. And this goes to LC3 and other areas of government. Now, at the level of policy, both administration should be implementing the political ideals. What are the political ideals? When we talk about issues of democracy, when we talk about issues of rule of law, when we talk about participation, we are talking about governance issues. But in Uganda's context, are we comfortable about the nature of politics, how it influences administrative decisions, and then the policy? Now, strictly speaking, it is policy that is supposed to be implementing the administration and politics. In Uganda, it is the other way around. It is politics that implements policy. And that's where the question of governance deficit is coming in. The policy is supposed to be implementing political ideals of service delivery using existing administrative structure and administrative institutions. Unfortunately, administrative institutions have been so weakened that it's no longer the institutions which are making decisions, it is political actors. Are you surprised that salary enhancement is a product of negotiation? One group agitates, demonstrates, calls the president, and the salary is increased. And then you begin wondering, we have the Public Service Commission. Can't they put in place an institution that is responsible for salaries of all the public servants, civil servants, and public servants from the top to the ground? But we see salary increment as a result of a political process instead of being of an administrative process. And these discrepancies are not shocking or surprising, because the moment you decide to administer public issues on the basis of political wishes and agitation, then one group will be advantaged against the other. So in terms of government deficit, yes, it's because we have not allowed the institutions to work. We've not allowed the institutions, to perform their role. We have reduced administrative issues, to political aspirations of some individuals. Now, when you are making decisions over, education system, there will be one or two technical people and about five politicians. And the interests of the politicians are now the ones that are driving policy. The moment you handle public administration issues using ad hoc approaches, then it means that you've lost the sense of direction. So, salary enhancement is a positive thing. When you look at the discrepancies that are coming within the different sectors, then you realize we lack the overall sense of direction. Why are we lacking the overall sense of direction? Because we have not allowed the institutions to do their work. We've not allowed the technical wings to do their work the way it is being done. All these have been usurped by political actors. And when political actors usurp the administrative processes, then discrepancies are bound to happen. We need to do things in the right way. And when things have been done in the right way, then we shall begin to see a positive direction and outcomes out of such kinds of decisions. Eben,
Thank you. There has been an argument, and very many people are of course, talking about there is no dispute over the fact that Uganda needs scientists. And so if one is to improve sciences in secondary schools or in Uganda at large, should the starting point be paying science teachers more, or should it be by constructing and equipping laboratories first?
yes. Thank you so much. Of course, that is another problematic situation. People think that studying sciences and teaching sciences makes one a scientist. You are a scientist if there is a level of innovation, if there is a level of using science to address, public problems. Now, the question would be, yes, we all agree about, prioritization of sciences and enhancing the teaching of sciences so as to lead us to a given step. But as you are saying, such process does not begin with the payment of salaries. We are in the 21st century. Can we first ask the question, what kind of science education do we need in the 21st century? We define the kind of science that we need vis-a-vis our conditions and our circumstances. Then after doing that, we need to ask ourselves, does the science that we teach in our schools today help us to meet the demands of the 21st century? Yes and no. Then can we think about curriculum reforms? We reform the curriculum, we upgrade it so that it addresses the concerns of the 21st century. Then after upgrading the curriculum, then you need to ask yourself, are the schools ready to handle the teaching of sciences? Do we have access to electricity? Do we have laboratories? Abel, there are so many schools in Uganda today with no access to electricity, with no laboratories. So a teacher of physics or chemistry is teaching about Isaac Newton and the laws of motion the same way a history teacher is talking about Kakungura and Nyunguyamawe. There is no difference. There is no experimentation. So what is the capacity of the schools in terms of laboratories? Now, the schools are so many. We may not get all the schools having the laboratories. Can we create model laboratories at the sub-county where schools can frequently go and have this experimentation? So if we were to promote science education, these are the things that you would be thinking about. Then what are the capacities and the competencies of the teachers themselves? These are the same people who have been teaching Abbott and what for the last 15, 20 years. Nothing has changed in their approach. So, can we also think about improving the quality and the capacity of teachers? And then, if we have settled the science we want, the curriculum that we want, the capacity of the schools, then the quality of teachers itself, then we can begin talking about incentivization of the teachers and innovation of science so that then science can turn people into scientists. And we go beyond, this simplistic way of saying, yes, we are promoting sciences, that's why we are paying scientists higher. When all the ingredients that make a scientist have not been addressed, this is a joke. It is an administrative joke, it is a policy joke. You cannot improve sciences simply by increasing the pay of teachers. There is a lot that needs to be done along the way. Then we can begin to say, okay, now we are moving in the right direction. Abel,
Thank you. I would like to bring now Dr. Deus, who has joined us. I want him to respond to one of your arguments where he said that now the reason why we are having this crisis and this problem is because instead of leaving the administrative part of government to do the job of enhancing or determining on how to enhance salaries of the civil service, we are now seeing the political wing is the one that is more in charge of enhancing. So they go and negotiate with the political wing and ignore the administrative part of government. So I wanted Dr. Deus to tell us whether this is an indicator of failure by the regime to manage the country's civil service sector. Dr. Deus?
I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
yes, we
Yes,
can
I
hear
can hear
you.
you.
Okay, right. First of all, I must apologize for coming in late. The technology here challenged me, but I was trying to be on time as well. Uh, Maybe before I answer your question on failures of government in addressing and civil service issues, I want to lay foundation for my understanding, because to me, society cannot, society is in itself, the way it's conceptualized, is not a mistake. We can't talk of a society and think it's a mistake. It's an act of organizing, the deliberate act of human beings by human beings to organize. And so there must be pillars somehow built out either out of consensus or proposed by superior human beings and adopted by everyone. Back home, I see a lot of anxiety in the recent times, which has come in brewing of politics of trying to keep society together, and as a result of the challenges of democracy, and then versus fundamentals of building society. And and because of the anxiety generated by the challenges of reactionary challenges of trying to keep a population together, the fundamentals are being used in a way that isn't appropriate for, to say the least. Everything is reactionary. And so the debate to me is not about science, whether science people should be paid, whether public servants should be paid first versus private people, whether it is how the government in place intends to rally us together and keep us as a country dealing with all the fundamentals, education, arts, philosophies, religion, etc., and to make sure we progress as a complex whole with some levels of anxiety, but understood as so. But what I see are challenges that really are dramatizing society, and everyone is forgetting the fundamentals. And so back to the question whether, yes, government seems to be really failing in terms of harmonizing the civil service, in terms of the overall motivation strategy for civil service perform its cardinal duty, and basically to link with the polity and put institutions in place that are aware that leadership is royalty. So what I'm seeing is government attempting to manage society, and it's going to be very expensive. And what you do when you manage society, you probably can also attempt to divide in order to rule them, to give them too much business as opposed to building for greater good of everyone, for greater good of neighborhood. And so, yes, according to me, from the, let's say, salary point of view, government has failed. And I'm going to say miserably, to find a harmonious way of administering, for example, a payroll that can act as a motivator, but at the same time can harmonize us to undertake tasks that make us society on the move from, for our sake, Africa, maybe from, unless I've not didn't get the question clearly.
Thank you, Doctor. I think from here we let's first go for a brief break, and then we shall return.
Hello?
Oh, welcome, my people. A cup of coffee, please. There is tea, everything, snacks are on the way.
Yeah, thanks, but the reason that's why we are here, our people need improve different services. We at least need an ambulance at every Santa-Fe.
My sub-county is the forest. We used to depend on the former MP's vehicle, but when he lost his elections, he took away his vehicle.
Of course.
So what does that mean?
Use your budget as a district to procure the ambulances.
Oh, if I could, I would. But unfortunately, government operates differently.
I'm saying, Chairperson, this is very serious and urgent.
Yes. And why are they called local leaders then?
Local government.
You people, who sent you here?
I know, of course. We are concerned citizens who are watching people dying every day.
We've lost our beloved ones just because of poor health services.
Something has to be done.
You are right. Something has to be done, and very fast.
Yes.
That's transport for you. Go back.
But
All your concerns are taken care of. I will handle.
But
Have a
Chairman,
safe journey.
Thank you so much.
but this man seems to undermine our cause as to why we're here.
No, don't misunderstand me. This is just transport, no strings attached.
Chairman, we came here to discuss and find solution to our problems. But it seems you don't want to engage with us. Let's go and mobilize people, and you will see how serious we are.
Good citizens, let us always hold our leaders accountable. Leadership is a service, not a privilege.
Contribute today at www.politicalfinanceafrica.org/donate.
Welcome back from that break. We are discussing about the crisis in Uganda's education sector, and we are trying to look at it whether it's a symptomatic of inherited governance deficits. So I would bring back Dr. Deus, who joined us a little bit late. We have seen the media has reported various statements from the government officials, from Ministry of Public Service and also Ministry of Education, who have directed striking teachers, especially from the arts side, to either go back to school or they lose their jobs. Is this the best way to handle such a crisis?
That at some point government has to come in to manage that strike. It's normal. They will come in to attempt and manage the strike. And one way is to threaten leaders and to take them through lots of challenges that they can succumb or fear. That's one side of looking at it. And of course, the strike on the other side is an attempt to challenge the government. And so government is also trying to say that possibly you can't put us in the corner. We had a good plan, and it's a people's plan, let's say. And so you can't push us to a non-people's plan, assuming that government is in charge of its plans, and that these plans take us in a positive direction. So we have a situation of a strike, and it has been managed. I mean, in my experience, this is an attempt to stress them to a point of saying, okay, let's give in and let's strike a deal. But on the other hand, government's approach says, no, look, if you do not come back to class, we possibly will sack you. Yes, that is only if they are lawless. That is only if government is very serious about the laws in place that really manage these industrial relations. Because how can government possibly sack them? It will only be an act of lawlessness, because the laws allow these people to demonstrate over a concern, over an industrial concern. And the wage is one of the concerns. Discrimination is one of the concerns. And by the way, it seems government is on the wrong side, because the discrimination that is being commissioned does not meet the criteria for in a way that the laws provide. And it seems to me, in my experience, that even on the basis of the discrimination, the amount of money that is being proposed between an arts teacher and a science teacher, that gap itself is good reason for workers at the same rank to agitate. It's good reasoning itself, because it is not justifiable. That gap is not justifiable by all means and circumstances. And also considering what Dr. Msingzi was saying, on whether the difference actually will amount some wonders in science when there are no laboratories or other accessories to what they are trying to achieve. So, according to me, if government is saying we will sack you after this, then they would also be either acting lawlessly, because they have signed all the documentation all with them, and they have followed all the procedures. They have tried to negotiate, but it seems there is no good deal yet. And on the other side, the law allows them to continue agitating. But let's talk also very frankly. Who is at loss here? Because look, you are threatening very experienced teachers. You are telling very experienced teachers that we can easily replace you. I don't understand. Yes, there are so many teachers languishing around, but I thought government thought these were very experienced people. They have been paying them, they have been training them, they have built experience and skill. And so if you replace them so fast in a moment as a way of solving what you think is a problem, which to me is a problem being caused by bad policy, not their problem, because they feel discriminated. And unless you are saying, okay, even if you feel discriminated, go back to work, you have no choice. But the laws give them some choice. If you lose all this experience, who is at loss? The children of this country, and it happens to be the poor children of this country, the children from very poor families. And so citizens, I thought the members of parliament would take this seriously because they're the ones representing the poorest in our society. And they are there seated at parliament, commissioning budgets without questioning them. And the possibility that you will undermine the same people they pretend to represent. And maybe this is a calling on the people, that is if they can hear us, because these right services don't reach them. The people should question, because whatever is happening, Parliament commissioned it also. They should have questioned, look, Your Excellency, this is going to bring problems to our people. This is going to undermine the education of the real people we represent in this parliament, those who vote us. And so the threats to me are another difficult, challenging, it's a management tool. It's a society management tool. People are led. They are not managed. They're just trying to manage. It's all anxiety. It's all distortion. No salary scales that are possibly justifiable, from parastatal to public service to professors to non-professors. It's all view. And I think it helps politics because it keeps us rambling. It keeps us debating and arranging meetings, talk shows, etc. It is not helping us to move society forward. And so, yes, the teachers have all the laws on their side. Government seems not to have. It only has threats. It can only break the law. The only possible good thing is to sit with these teachers and address this agitation. Because even if you don't, I pity those who force a teacher. You can force me into class, I don't know. But if I decide to take the strike to my heart, the whole society is at loss.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deus. I want now to bring Dr. Musinguzi. You've just heard from your fellow doctor and your good friend. If government really takes this decision of sacking teachers, does it have time, financial resources, and other capacity to recruit and orient new teachers in such a short span?
Yes, as Dr. Mwezi has said, I mean, even if you sack and you want to replace them, are they easily replaceable? Yes, there could be people having a bachelor's in education and you think they can do the same work. But someone who has been teaching for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years, they have authored the books, they are not just that easily replaceable. As we were going through this, one of the listeners reminded me, back early 1980s, when these people went to the bush, along the way, they gave us a 10-point program as their ideology, as their mandate when they get into government. And you realize that out of those 10-point programs, there is no point on education. Never they did talk about education, even when I emerging from the bush. Now one might begin wondering, Give them the benefit of doubt that they forgot? Do we take them but by what they wrote, that they never prioritized education right from the beginning? Education doesn't seem to be the priority of this government. And yes, they are going to threaten to sack these people, but if you know that the quality of education determines the quality of the population, it is the bedrock for the economy, then you would want to address education more sensitively and more responsibly and in a more caring way. Now, the moment you begin issuing threats, then we will begin to say, okay, you have the coercive powers and you have the legitimacy to utilize them. But as Dr. Deus mentioned, you also put in place laws that allow, the people to form trade unions and also agitate for their rights. Then we see the contradictions. And for me, these contradictions even worry me more than the government's ability to replace. They may not have the resources. They say, we are going to compensate you. And they take 5-10 years without compensating. They will run adverts. They will get some teachers, yes, to put in these schools. But the main question will be, what is the quality of education that we are promoting? How much do we care about education? What value do we place, against these people who have educated literally everybody? And as we said, before you become a scientist, you go through primary school, you study social sciences, you study literacy. You understand? You go to a secondary school, you study history alongside chemistry until you reach a moment where you are specializing. Now, you are saying you want to sack and replace. Are you thinking about education? Are you thinking about the future of the country? As I said from the beginning, you're saying, I am powerful, I can force you to do what I want you to do, I can even go against the laws and sack you. I may not, by the time they say they are going to sack you, even you don't think they are going to give you terminal benefits if they are to do it. So in a dictatorial government, yes, it is possible they can sack you. And it is possible within 1 month or 2 months, they may have new teachers placed in schools. But if you are the new teacher being recruited and you are replacing fellow teachers who were agitating for their rights, it means that kind of argument reduces education to a matter of survival. It's just survival. You say, you guys, we've been paying you however little it is. If you are not happy with it, you go. We can get those who are happy with it. After all, they are starving. The economy is bad. They will go with it. And for me, that's the basis, the value of education. It vulgarizes what education is and what it is for. So knowing that it is the teachers, whether arts or sciences, who have, produced the professionals, who have produced the leaders that we have. People have been asking, Museveni did not study sciences. Has he not led this country for 36 years now? He has been competing with the Besigye, who is a medical doctor. If he values sciences, why didn't he say, okay, I've led the country for 20 years, let me allow the scientists to come in and break this economy? His deputy president is not a scientist. The prime minister is not a scientist. So again, when you put this hype about sciences, you are treating, as they said, society as if it is, an abstract thing that is out there. You can kick up and kick down and kick across without providing the required leadership and moving in the right direction. So, and I said, and Dr. Mweze reinforced it, this level of ad hocism. We are doing things in an ad hoc way. The level of ad hocism, it is dangerous. It is dangerous for the country. So about the dynamics of whether they can expel them and whether they can, well, they may not do it because of the limitation. But when the dictator is pushed to the end, they can do it. Say, you know what? Don't joke with us. We fought. We can still fight you. And you know that has been the language. We fought, we defeated many wars and many enemies. But are we prioritizing education? You know, that for me, that is the most important consideration out there.
Thank you, Dr. Musinguzi. Now I want to bring back Dr. Dewos. I recall very well you were once the chairperson of Makerere University Academic Staff Association, and you had the same problem of having loggerheads between government and academic staff from Makerere University concerning salary enhancement. How did you reach into understanding with government, and what lessons can you not to right now learn from how you guys managed to solve these issues, government? Because there were also threats of those ones who don't want to teach, we can replace them. How did you manage, and what lessons can you not to learn from how you manage when you're a chairperson of MOAS?
Us, by the way. And for us, they are, you know, when we were agitating for a fair wage, everyone looked at us as lunatics. We have been struggling for a fair wage since 1989, since Professor Juko and friends, who are now elders in this society, pushed NRA, then NRM, to start, inviting academia on the cake sharing table. And because, we had gone capitalism, and Professor Juko then and friends were reacting to liberalization, because earlier we had thought government would harmoniously, socially, like they had stood for, improve all sectors of our economy in a way that would even deal with these possible agitations that have come with capitalism. So those years we started, and everyone thought we were crazy, but society failed to understand that we couldn't possibly, as teachers, where would these teachers have really compensated themselves from? By moonlighting, going around universities, by being both secondary and university teachers, by selling scripts, by selling marks. Because if you are managing, you're a commissioner managing a budget in government, you probably can decide to undermine service delivery and pocket all the money with your staff in the department. But for us, what would we have done? Cheat? That would be intellectual dishonesty. And I think we see our bar is a bit higher. And so we opted for proper methods of lawful methods of agitating. And we've come a long way. So around early 2000, mid 2000 there, the president started a policy of giving more money to scientists, and saying that, you see, scientists do more. They need more casimo, more money, so they can concentrate on their work because they are leaving the country. First of all, he began, yes, by responding and increasing our wages slowly. But after agitation, it was not smooth also. But again, later say, no, scientists are doing more. Since you, the artists, are teaching a lot of students and generating money, let the scientists get some more money on the payroll. And that started. And for us as leaders and as staff, we felt, okay, let's honor the president. The president has a view. Let's keep working with it. But we categorically disagree with him that we do the same work. But for the sake of harmony and for the sake of allowing a presidential idea, maybe we felt at that time it was part of the ideological complex of leadership, that stems from leadership, and we said it's fine. And so we got the first divisions between science, but it was a small wage difference, not big. Let's say 300,000 between an assistant lecturer who is arts and an assistant lecturer who is science. But later, last 2020, we got a public service and the team decided to pay because they had summary 1 million bit rank. Now, the president and team decided to pay professors and associate professors and vice chancellors the highest wage promised and left the rest behind. So the difference between an associate professor now and a senior lecturer is about 5 million shillings. And that also is a problem. I left it on the table. It's a problem of staff, and we were negotiating out of it, and we had a strike, I think, last year, and we were also threatened ETC who act like I don't know, they have been sent and they don't cooperate, they don't care. And so we sort of like relaxed a bit, but with a tough call on them that this would undermine education. And we may be quiet, but this will not go down well with university education. So we are talking about 2,700 staff who are affected by this policy, only looking at 350 staff, paying them a full wage, 15 million, 14 million, and then the rest being left behind in the pro rata system. So this began with us. Now, all of a sudden, we had talk with arts and science in the mainstream, including, by the way, workers who are science, public service workers who are science, and those who are arts. It is not only going to affect teachers, but also workers in public service who are arts and some science, those who are doing technical work. Already, for example, some workers in some ministries are already earning very high wages, and also some specialized schools like in aviation, people there are really earning very good wages. So this talk came, but me, I understand it. Let me go back to, I understand it in two ways. One, I've been attempting so hard to understand the ideological view of the NRM government in this science art thing. But I failed to align myself with the possibility that increasing a wage only without working on infrastructure and all the other things would actually achieve the real aim of moving society forward, as opposed to just holding people. Maybe they need money, so give them and they keep quiet. Versus the possibility that this is a totally divide and rule issue to keep elites rambling on non-issues, and of course, leading to a total misprogramming of society. And I'm beginning to think this is a total misprogramming of society. It's more of salaries and are more of a management tool, political management tool, as opposed to leadership tool. Because if it's a leadership tool, then a wage would go with facilitation of those teaching science, and it wouldn't be unjustifiable. Really, 4 million between people of the same rank is unjustifiable. And in a country where everyone is virtually trying to survive, is unjustifiable. And it can only affect. I heard yesterday the government spokesperson, who is to me qualifies as a very careless lot or very disastrous generation, laughing that maybe arts, that they are feeling nugu. And I just couldn't imagine the level of idiocy. We are dealing with a very serious matter at a very critical time in our evolution. And you see these very qualified social scientists vulgarizing and trivializing the very least, instead of guiding and helping. And then you ask yourself, why did we even go to school? Idiots. And you ask yourself, what's wrong with society? This is a time when probably all of us would be saying, no, wait a minute, let's organize this way. Let's do this. Let's come to the table and organize, because the gaps, this way of incentivizing and motivating people for a job, a society job, is clearly inappropriate. And for an adult, senior in age, I don't think in terms of organizing, the experience of organizing society, to trivialize this at a level of government is very disheartening on my side. And so, yes, in my experience, this has happened to us, but I can also say in my experience, it's counterproductive. It begins to push us to coil, to also act like any heathen. I've heard the First Lady say, you are ungodly. Oh my God. Everyone in government seems very ungodly. And I'm beginning to wonder whether this word God, patriotism, really is sincere. I think we would rather all be ungodly and do the ungodly things. And then maybe we'll have a conference of the ungodly and agree on how to behave appropriately in ungodly ways. But this business of godly, ungodly, patriotism seems to be an act of anxiety, survival, wishing to live for a day, and to see adults, like a government spokesperson, saying artists have nugu over, to be so trivial is very disheartening. And it undermines everything I know that is logical. It sets me into the mood of survival, and also a desire maybe to behave like the heathen and also start misguiding society where I have an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deos. We have spent most of our time, so I would like to give each of you three minutes as we conclude and share with us what you think is the most permissible win-win scenario for teachers and the government to salvage this education sector. I will start with you, Dr. Dennis.
Yes, thank you so much, Abel. Yeah, the government thinks they can do things in the way they want. Fortunately, the population has said no. We know that there is a right way and a good way and the best way of doing things. So instead of these contradictory statements in the place, which are not clear, instead of the threats, I think the most reasonable and noble thing to do is to recognize there is a problem, and then collectively look for sustainable solutions. Now, we need to go beyond sectoral negotiation. Today it's Makerere, tomorrow it is teachers, the other day it is Boda Boda, the other day it is what? We need to have a uniform way of dealing with the agitation across the board. Whether this is going to come so quickly, it is a different issue. Because as my colleague Dr. Mwez has noted, this is a political management tool. When we studied history, they said the French used assimilation, the British used divide and rule. And they are clearly dividing the fraternity of trade unions, especially in particular teachers' unions. They want it shattered so that it does not have the capacity to negotiate. And unfortunately, we are also fracturing the teaching force. We are dividing students, and we are fracturing the education system, and things cannot work like that. So getting out of this, we need to see the Ministry of Public Service, taking charge and taking responsibility. Work with other sectors, and then work out an approach that is going to deal and address all these issues, working with the other respective bodies of government. The threats, the what, are clearly misplaced. they are making an ugly situation even look uglier. You read statements and you are not sure whether these are authored by the people that you would normally regard with high esteem. No, we cannot continue moving like this. Something must change. Thank you, Abel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musinguzi. Dennis, Dr. Deus, what is your say and what can government and teachers do to salvage this crisis?
You see, when the NRA came into force, and I was a child, a very keen child, and I have followed all my. It's very surprising. I have followed all my life this the regime, not only an interested party, but from the house, because I saw agitations in the house to get this peaceful end to our problems. I saw it real in the house. And so I followed clearly. And I think part of what brought NRM was to allow the population at that time, which seemed frigid, to discuss destiny together without any kind of form of disorientation. Because at that time, the NRM promised a fundamental change. Now, many years down the line, for some reasons, and in my middle ages, I begin to see things that to me seem like those that I felt when I was young. I'm just trying to think then that government needs to recall what it promised the people. And at some point, the president used to compare South Korea with resource-rich countries and pointed to a view that when people are empowered, when people are skilled, when people have all the capacity, they can do more what natural resources can't do. I don't know where that got lost at some point. And possibly what I see the president do now cannot possibly tally with where his aspirations then. It cannot build a society or a people that are empowered, that have a clear vision on what they can do as a people to push a country in a way that natural resources can't do. And so at this point, I want the NRM government to go back to its core, to harmonize people, to allow that people can sit together and logically chart a way forward together without any form of disorientation, with minimal disorientation, with minimal ambiguity. And so my call, with all my experience, is for the striking teachers and government, as they have always done, to call these teachers, sit on the table and see this ambiguity that has, extreme ambiguity that has been created of a very huge gap. And I'm talking about also lecturers in university, public university. Their stand on this everything. Labor owns everything. And I want laborers of all kinds to know, if you care to tell anyone, whether you are laboring on the fields, whether you are laboring in a tax park, whether you are laboring in a school or a university, I want people to know that labor owns everything. And the area we get to know that labor owns everything in the peripheral countries, the better. The area we get to know that, the better. And so, to me, this agitation is normal. It is reacting to a situation that is abnormal. And let government and the people affected sit on the table and agree on how we can move forward. And that's the only way forward. There is not complexity. The teachers know what they want, and government knows what is being done and knows even what is supposed to be done. Let them sit and agree on how to move forward. And once again, labor owns everything. The earlier we get to know that, the better. There is no other. Labor owns everything. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deus Kamunyu and Dr. Musinguzi Dennis, for accepting our invitation to participate on ACFIM Talks. I want to thank people outside there who have been following. You can still follow this show. You can still rewatch this show on our ACFIM YouTube channel. That is ACFIM Uganda. Thank you so much. We shall meet again next week as we discuss issues on governance and money in politics. From me to you, it has been me, Abel Etheru. Thank you so much. Meet you next week on Friday.